If smart contracts really do what they say they do,
Mm,
then the entire system that's been built around real estate is going to collapse. And I don't mean collapse as in fall apart, but more collapse as in there are so many layers in there that we just don't need anymore if
mm.
everything is coded.
In this conversation, we're talking about tokenization and how technology could start to change the way that real estate is owned and transferred. Today, I'm joined by Mandy McGill to introduce some of these ideas. Hello, Mandy. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks so much for letting me come on. I'm excited for the conversation.
There you go. Hi, Mandy. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Denny. Nice to meet you.
So, Mandy, we're hearing more terms like blockchain, tokenization, digital assets in the real estate conversation. So, for someone encountering these terms for the first time, what's happening and why should people in real estate take notice?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's happening is the entire world is moving into a new financial system, and not very many people realize that this is happening, but it is. And so this obviously matters deeply to real estate because, a new system that works faster and, is more transparent will obviously affect us greatly. So yeah, I think, that's why they should care as far as what tokenization actually is. It's basically just taking any physical asset that has value and then attaching a digital token to it. So you now have digital ownership, and this all happens on a technology called blockchain.
Okay. So right now, commercial real estate's under a lot of pressure. Increased interest rates, office vacancy, liquidity challenges. Could tokenization offer some options to owners and developers in that environment?
Yeah. Definitely. I think the honest truth is that we're a little ways away from this being like a mainstream option for developers. But at this point, if you are a building owner that has a decent amount of equity in your project or in your building, you can access that equity right away without having to sell the building through tokenization. So I hope that makes sense to you, but yeah. So basically, you can still own your building. You can still own the majority of your building, and then you can kind of leverage, say, 25% of your equity, put it out on the market, and then that gives you cash flow that you didn't have previously.
Cool.
Right. And so you don't have to sell the whole thing. You just have to sell like a tiny portion of it. And then individuals on the other side, investors, now have access to commercial real estate that they didn't have access to before because previously you had to write such a huge check in order to be a part of it.
Follow up to that, what does the tokenization like landscape look like today? Like, do you see deals happening? And like, who are the early adopters? Who
Sure.
are the first ones to tokenize their properties?
Yeah. So yes, deals are happening, and I know because I'm working on them myself. There are also several other early movers on this. So Red Swan is a company that's been tokenizing hotel, mostly I think hotels, but I think they also have quite a bit of multifamily in Texas, and they've been working on this. Gosh, I met their founder probably like 5 years ago, and I was like, wow, this is amazing that you are like staying at it. Because it's definitely been challenging. The whole landscape of crypto obviously
Mm.
has been, it's taken a very long time to get to this place, but there are definitely projects happening, and there's another one that's happening called Groma out of the East Coast. They're out of Boston, and they have a kind of a different strategy around it, and I don't know every single detail, but they're actually buying a bunch of multifamily, and then they're tokenizing it, and they're allowing their tenants to purchase the tokens.
Wow.
So yeah, they're definitely early movers there, and I really like kind of their basic premise and their strategy. And then, as a lot of tokenization is happening, not as much in real estate yet, but more along the lines of other securities, right? So the
Mhm.
stock market, like the New York Stock Exchange, just said that they're partnering with a company called Securitize to tokenize all of their stocks, basically. So we're just, we're still at the beginning phases of this, but there definitely are projects happening out there, and we're paving the way. So
Out of curiosity, what do you see as like the main use case? Do you see it as like owners unlocking equity, trying to get money out of their property, similar to like instead of, taking another loan or refinancing, they just tokenize to get equity out? Or do you view it more as, fundraising? Let retail be a part of your project because anybody can, buy a tokenized piece. Or what do you see as like the main use case?
So it's both of those things equally, right?
Got
So it is, I mean, we need liquidity in
it.
commercial real estate, right? Like we desperately need liquidity right now. We see all of this money locked up that can't go anywhere. And on the other side, we have all of these retail investors who are very, very interested in getting in. And yet again, like they just don't have the dollars available to actually, or unless someone, right? Like,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that just isn't the case for most
High
owners.
barrier of entry.
That's right. That's right. And there are some laws that need to happen in order for this to like go full bore.
Mhm.
There are accredited investor laws that actually the SEC is looking at right now, and they do intend to change them. And I could dig into that if you want to, but
Mhm.
the yeah the I think as far as the use case goes, it's equally as important to the industry as it is to the individuals who'd like to get in my
Super.
opinion.
Yeah, I guess a fun question would be like, to the best of your knowledge, like, could you describe like the mechanics of a tokenized deal? Like, how would you go about tokenizing a property?
Sure. So I have a slide for this.
Cool.
And it actually does dig into quite a bit of the detail behind this. And so I'm going to sort of simplify a little bit by saying the mechanics are if when you decide you want to raise, you need to open up a kind of an SPV and an additional LLC. And then you decide how much of your equity you want to tokenize, and you create that LLC around
Mm,
that token, right? So that sort of represents the tokenization piece. And this is where a platform like T0 comes in, which is my platform partner.
mm,
And so at that point, and you do have to have an attorney involved to kind of write up all of your paperwork. So once that happens, the all of the information that is in that paperwork is then written in code and actually on every individual token that is purchased.
got it.
And so once you get that token, it's like the contract is just written in, right? And
Mhm.
T0 does all of the technology piece to create those tokens. You determine how much you want every token to be worth. You determine kind of exactly how much, like you have to buy this
Mhm.
certain amount in order to get in, kind of thing. And once that happens, the token is then released out to the market, and the market at this point is well, on T0, it's 80,000 investors that are looking for this kind of opportunity. By the way, all these investors will be from all around the world.
Mhm.
And then and then as the dollars come in, you receive them as the developer, or in our case, right? We understand what we're saying when we say developer. And then you do have to legally hold them as a security for a year, the
Mhm.
token, and then After that, you can sell them on the secondary market.
Cool. And I guess that's one of the advantages maybe that you're pointing out. They said all over the world is because with the blockchain or tokenization, you can buy it from anywhere, anytime. Is
That's
that
right.
the idea?
That's right.
Cool.
Yes, although there are some limitations, right, at this point. So
Hmm.
theoretically, what you're saying is true. The legislation needs to pass. The U.S. is leading the legislation here. We've already passed the Genius Act, which is it legalizes dollar for dollar like stable coins.
Hmm.
And now we are in the process of passing the Clarity Act, which will give us market infrastructure.
Got it.
Um, However, so I know
Mhm.
this gets a little complicated, and
Oh,
I feel like
totally.
I talk a little too much when I'm talking about this, but it is the reality. The SEC and the CFTC have already released guidance around this, so
Hmm.
we can tokenize regardless of whether or not the Clarity Act passes. So there's a lot of conversation around that, but all of the legal framework has been given to us as anyone who's tokenizing a security, which is always going to be what CRE does.
Got it. Cool. And just to review for the mechanics question, it's like you have title, then you have an entity or LLC that owns title, then you tokenize the LLC, the
That's right.
entity that owns it. Cool.
That's right. But
Awesome.
you mentioned title, and I think it's
Mhm.
important to say that title is also going to be on the blockchain.
Got it. So that it'll be part of the information with each token. It'll have title as a part of it.
That's right.
Super cool. Super cool. A fun follow-up maybe for like students or early career professionals who want to, stay on like the cutting edge of this. How do you like stay up to
Mhm.
date? What skills would
Mm.
you suggest we pursue? Like what experiences should we start building right now? How do we stay involved? Like how did you learn about this?
So I fell down the crypto rabbit hole in 2019
Hmm.
because I was looking for a different, so I was looking at the monopoly problem that we have as a country, and I
Hmm.
was looking for how do we like fix it? And part of that was how do we fix like social media, and how do we fix it such that we no longer are dependent on platforms in order for us to like grow as entrepreneurs, right? And so you know, that helped me understand what a smart contract is, which is what Ethereum is. And I was like, holy cow. If smart contracts really do what they say they do,
Hmm.
then the entire system that's been built around real estate is going to collapse.
Hmm.
And I don't mean collapse as in fall apart, but more collapse as in there are so many layers in there that we just don't need anymore if
Hmm.
everything is coded.
Yeah.
Everything is on the blockchain. And so I just got real passionate. I just started studying it, and I got my Fintech cert from UW.
Hmm.
And like I was just mind blown by all the different ways that tokenization could change literally everything. So in order for you to get involved, I mean, I think you have to become an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
Um, I really do. I think, are you familiar with the
I've
barbell
not. Tell me
method
about it.
or the barbell idea?
No.
So I recently read a paper called The Economics of AGI. And what it said is basically we're going to see a barbell over the next few years where AI will sort of eliminate the middle and what we call middle management. And then on the
Hmm.
one side of the barbell, we're going to have all of these entrepreneurs creating with AI,
Hmm.
creating with crypto, creating new companies that are like one and two people, right? And then on the other side of the barbell, we're going to have like 20, 30, 40 like big companies that just do everything else, right? Like I mean, it's probably going to be the AI companies, it's going to be Nvidia, it's going to be anything from Elon, right? Like so it's that's the barbell. And so I would say um either figure out which one's going to
Yeah.
be one of the 20 to
Align
40
with one
bigs.
of the sides before you get cut out of the middle.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And for CRE, I mean, what people will say is we're really slow to adopt technology. It's going to take a long time. I think that's true. And I also think it's true that if we're too slow, tech will just say,
Yeah.
I'll just create around you.
Yeah, beat you to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess from what's your optimistic, 10 years in the future, looking back or looking towards that, you know, if you wanted everything to fall into place, what does that look like? Like, what do real estate deals look like if this all gets adopted over the next decade?
Mm, optimistic. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I am an optimist. I
hmm
100% am. But I also am not afraid of any of this. And I
hmm
understand that many, many institutions are dependent upon the system as it currently exists.
Yes.
And so when you ask me like what is optimistic, I mean it's that many of those small companies that we're talking about on the one side of the barbell are super successful. And they aren't held back anymore by
Mhm.
this I like companies that maybe don't accept them or
Mhm.
are uninterested in what they're talking about. And so as far as like, I mean, to narrow it down to like, oh, the transaction itself,
Mhm.
it is hard for me to say like, oh, I want the transaction to be this thing, right? What
Yeah.
I will say that I don't believe that we're going to need title insurance anymore. That is
Mm.
completely gone.
Yeah.
You don't need escrow.
Yeah. Once it's all on the blockchain, it's hard
It
to have
will
a
all
muddy
be
title. Yeah.
that's right. So all of that is will be on blockchain. And I know companies, we have Balcony who's tokenizing everything in Bergen County. We have Proppy who will, eventually it's an AI roll up. They're buying out title companies all across the US. Focus
Mhm.
on residential, but I've spoken with the founder and uh, so maybe some private things that I won't share, but it's
Mhm.
happening. Okay.
Yeah.
And it will happen in CRE as well.
Yeah.
And so like title and escrow is just eliminated. And then, um, the rest of the transaction will probably all be happening on blockchain. We're going to see a bunch of platforms pop up. I don't know if we're going to see it in like, oh, it's going to be here's like a multifamily, here's like the one that does data centers, here's I don't know if it will separate that way or like exactly how it's going to
Mhm.
the platforms are going to pop up, but I'm working with a founder, on one of them, and so it's going to look very, very different.
You're likely an advocate that the Clarity Act passes and more legislation, setting the framework and letting it be allowed.
100%.
Totally.
Yes.
And is that supposed to, are they voting on that in the next couple months? What's the timeline for that?
Yeah, the timeline keeps changing. I would say we're probably, I think it will get done this year.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
I don't know if it's going to be next month, but politicians they politician, and that's good for them. But yeah, it'll get done this year, I think.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good. So we're early on in this all. Not it's not widely used yet, but it's something we're talking about. We're having a discussion here, not advocating for it, just like having a discussion about other things that come out there. I love because, Denny's a great student and he's at a different point in his life than me. We talk about,
Mm,
maybe commercial real estate slow to adopt, but yet there are others that may be quicker to do it. So I think we all need to learn more, keep going through this. But I want to learn more about you. So you mentioned UW, you mentioned your background. Tell us a
yeah,
little bit more. Yeah, tell us more about you and what it is you do.
sure. So I both educate the industry on this through creating community. So I actually educate people on TikTok. And that, believe me, that is challenging. Putting all of this information into bite-sized pieces. And then I also I serve on different I serve on CoreNet New York Prop Tech Committee. I serve on FIBRE, which is the Foundation for International Blockchain Real Estate e- Experts. Let me get that acronym right. And I still serve on UWT Real Estate Advisory Task Force. Or I don't know if it's a task force. It's a a committee basically that I was invited to participate in by Herb Simon. And I do have to say that that team down there is amazing. Chancellor Lang and the work she's doing. Really appreciate her passion for the city and for getting UWT built up. And then Sylvia James, I do want to say Sylvia James, Ben Mock, and Joe Lawless, all three just um, they're actually making building happen down there. So of course, as a real estate person, that's what you want to see. You want to see building and growth, and they know what they're doing, and really appreciate that team down there. So hope that answers.
Good. Yeah, it does. So UW Tacoma for the T in Tacoma for those that are in Seattle or Bothell or outside the area. But you also mentioned you have a degree from UW and so you went to school there. What was your background there in schooling?
Yeah, so I actually got my Fintech certification from UW. So learned basically how to code from UW. So it was a virtual, it was during COVID, so it was 100% virtual. Rare, I think we met as a group at the end of it and had dinner and we were still masking. So unfortunately, like I didn't get the whole vibe of being able to be on campus, which I would have loved. But yeah, so again, like still definitely consider myself a husky.
Fun question regarding your involvement in real estate. What's a project or deal that you've worked on that you thought was particularly cool or that you're particularly proud of that you'd be willing to share a little bit about?
Yeah, sure. Um, so I will say just in general, since I first got my start in real estate as a recruiter, my company is called Inspire Consulting, and so I like to say that I actually I got to be a little tiny piece of the building of Amazon,
Mhm.
the the just anything that kind of went up in Seattle, I kind of had a small hand in because I was working with so many of the GCs and the architects and engineers and helping staff their projects basically. I also worked with Clark Construction when they were building the convention center there. So certainly that I would say that the thing I'm most proud of now is so I mentioned that I serve on the prop tech committee for Cornet New York, and I've put together a panel of individuals, and we'll be doing, and they're all founders, CEOs of some of these companies that I'm talking about, Balcony, Proppy, that are going to be really transforming the industry. And so we're going to do that in Manhattan in June, and I get to be the facilitator of that conversation for the owners and tenants in New York City. So that's kind of the thing I'm most proud of right now.
That's cool. That should be a fun time in New
Yeah,
York. You're
for
saying
sure.
for
Thank
your
you.
previous deals, it's like you drive through downtown Seattle and you're like,
Mm,
I was a little bit part of all those buildings. That's pretty
that's
fun.
right. That's right. It is. It is a lot of fun.
If you could share like one piece of advice from your career, whether it's a saying or a motto or a lesson, what would your
Mhm.
one thing be?
Yeah. I I said it already, but I think it's worth saying again. Be an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
I think there's no better time than now to start playing around with the tools that are just absolutely fascinating.
Mhm.
AI, start playing around with it, take what you know, find a gap in the industry, understand what's coming, find a
Mhm.
gap, and I could list 10 so we can meet after this if you want. And that will will absolutely be a part of that, 1 to 2 person company that could potentially, really make a difference in the industry. So yeah.
Total. I've noticed AI really rewards curiosity. Like if you want to
Mhm.
figure something out, like it's never been easier to. And I think that's
That's
like
right.
totally onto your point. It's like if you want to attack something, it's like it's never been easier to just go after it. You have all the information, just like you need to do something with it. That's kind of like my generation's challenge. There's too much noise. You just
Mm.
have to like pierce through it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, I love your idea there. It would be an entrepreneur. I've had another guest that I do a lot of talks with, and he calls it, but in the real estate world, the wild, wild west. And he's got
Mm.
a gold miner's statue he carries around. And he was kind of telling a lot of real estate investors, and that's more for middle housing, but things are changing, and you got to be out there prospecting, looking for things. You have to have a mental shift of what you're used to doing and a paradigm change that say, hey, you have to look at it differently. If you're looking at the way that people were 5, 10, a year ago, you're going to miss out. So
Yeah,
keep an open mindset. I love being an entrepreneur and, go out and dig, prospect for, new ideas and new opportunities.
that's right. Yeah.
So if people want to get a hold of you, learn more about you, find you on TikTok,
Yeah.
how might they do so?
Yeah. Okay, on TikTok, I'm mandy.real.estate. On LinkedIn, I'm Mandy McGill. I do have a website. It's decentralizedeverything.ai. It was built entirely by Claude. It is not perfect, but it's close enough for me. And stay tuned for more news on podcast and community that I'm building.
That's awesome. Well, Mandy, thanks for coming on, sharing your knowledge, and I mean, I learned something today. I'm sure Denny did, and I'm looking forward to following you and learning more.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I've really enjoyed it. Nice to meet you, Denny.
Nice to
Appreciate the
meet you, Mandy. Thank
conversation
you.
very
It's
much.
fun.
Yeah. All
Thank
right.
you, Jeff.